What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, managing editor, Fightful.com and FightfulMMA.com. This is an insane report that I never thought I'd be talking about. A trade in MMA. Here's the story as it appears on Fightful.com and FightfulMMA.com by David Tees. MMA history could be made, according to Ariel Helwani of ESPN, as the UFC is reportedly interested in trading former UFC flyweight champion and former bantamweight title challenger Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson to one championship in exchange for the one championship welterweight champion Ben Askren. This deal was first discussed on a recent episode of MMA Junkie Radio, but first reported by Ariel Helwani. If the deal is indeed made, it would mark the first time in professional MMA history that two organizations traded their fighters to one another. This comes just one day after Ben Askren stated there was a 98% chance of him fighting in the UFC. And this coming after years of Ben Askren and Dana White in particular being at odds over him not fighting in the UFC. Helwani reports that in order to make the trade work, it would require the UFC to officially release Demetrious Johnson from his contract, and then one championship would do the same for Askren, which would allow both fighters to sign with the other organization. Johnson and Askren both reportedly have multiple fights on their contracts with their respective promotions, so it is unknown if those fights will carry over or if the new deal would change the amount of fights or dollar amounts that each man would experience. Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson, one of the greatest fighters of all time, ran through the UFC's flyweight division, had a great run at bantamweight as well, but dropped a very close fight to Henry Cejudo and lost that UFC flyweight championship recently. Ben Askren is undefeated and has fought quite often, or not quite often, but fought plenty in one championship, 7 fights, unbeaten. He is 18-0 with 1 no contest overall, but hasn't fought since last November, since he beat Shinya Aoki via TKO. And that may be his biggest name opponent in one championship, formerly known as One FC. And by all means, Shinya Aoki is not a welterweight. But Ben Askren has been a big name outside the UFC for years. He fought Douglas Lima, Andrei Koreshkov, Lyman Good, Jay Heron in Bellator on his way to becoming their greatest champion ever, really. The most defenses ever was by Ben Askren, and Bellator had a tough time holding on to champions as it was. This is unbelievable. This is a bit shocking. Ben Askren had retired, but nobody really believed that Ben Askren was retiring, especially considering the amount of money that he was still making. And one, he does have an office job there, but he's 34 years old and still a lot of gas left in the tank. Also a potential fight with Khabib Nurmagomedov, with George St. Pierre. He's an immediate challenger for any number of opportunities. And an interesting note is that there are only 4 flyweight fights scheduled through the end of the year on the men's side of things. And that being said, there are not a lot of men's flyweights in general, but if you're willing to trade Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson and the UFC seems insistent on Henry Cejudo fighting TJ Dillashaw, what does that tell you about the future of that division? It might not exist. And quite frankly, Sergio Pettis moving up to bantamweight, that removes another name. You had Moraga move up to bantamweight. Lineker couldn't make flyweight. You're losing key names left and right. This is wild speculation, but who knows if that flyweight division will even exist by next year. If it doesn't, One FC, Ryzen, Bellator, they need to jump on that. Now, the unfortunate thing would be Kyoji Horiguchi, he's in Ryzen. Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson, he'd be in one championship. What else is there out there after that? After you have people like Sergio Pettis moving up to bantamweight. Wild to think. Dana White says they don't want to expand and add additional weight divisions. They have a women's featherweight division that doesn't even have rankings yet. Meanwhile, you have tons of UFC lightweight fighters who won a 165-pound division, as do 170 fighters. That could happen. I could see a major shift in weight divisions if this deal goes through. And hopefully one day we do still get to see that Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson, Henry Cejudo trilogy. Guys, make sure you all subscribe to this new MMA and boxing channel. We're trying to get to 1,000 by UFC 230. Leave a thumbs up on the video. Most importantly, share the video. Let people know about us. I can't tell you how much that helps. I want to know what you thought or think. Who comes out on the best end of this deal? UFC or One? Quite frankly, I think if the UFC is doing what we're speculating they're going to do, it could be a win for both sides. We're out.